Speaking of teaching storytelling and Robert McKee, do you think people attending or students attending to a film school like USC or UCLA have an advantage of breaking into the film industry?
They probably do in the sense that they learn film technique, and if they're interested in directing especially, you know, I think it would help them. As screenwriters, I don't think it's at all necessary. And I think it could be harmful because you can wind up being addicted to the paradigm for the rest of your life, and that could really screw you up, you know, so then there's dangers in that.
Én magyarul fogok kérdezni, és rövidet. Hollywoodot miért nem érdeklik az elmúlt 15 évben az erotikus témájú filmek? Miért ment ki a divatból az erotika?
Probably the last movie until now that was so successful with an erotic content was Basic Instinct. Our society, I think, became more and more politically correct. I think that feminism portrayed anything erotic that's written by a man, especially, as being misogynistic. And I think fewer and fewer actresses were willing to do parts as a result of these societal things, which made it possible to do those kinds of movies. I'm very curious now with the E.L. James, 50 Shades of Grey, in terms of what's going to happen. And I suspect what's going to happen is that kind of movie with an erotic content is going to be written by women, and they will get under the radar of misogyny and political correctness and all of that. Andy, what are your thoughts?
I think that book has such a built-in audience already that is going to explode. I think just the bidding contest alone, and it was kind of an interesting way to go, because originally one of the studios, Arnon Milchan, Regency, was the first bidder. They bid $9 million for the book, which is huge. I mean, that's really one of the biggest, bigger than Harry Potter, bigger than anything. And but
was it for the one book, Andy, or for the series?
That was for the series, for the three books. But one of the conditions of the writer was that she wanted to be involved in the process. And Arnon Milchan wouldn't do that. So he said, no, I don't want you involved. That's it. $9 million, take it or leave it. Universal offered $5 million and said, oh, you can come and be part of the process. Well, I can tell you that she'll never be really part of the process, but Universal got a bargain for the book, and there will be an explosive audience. There is huge want to see already for that film. And I think it's just maybe that there hasn't been, I agree with Joe about the political correctness, maybe about our society today, but I think there hasn't been any real exciting challenges to sort of push the envelope. And I think this will be the first book that does.
I think another possible reason is that after Basic, there were so many attempts at doing that kind of movie with an erotic content. Madonna did a movie very quickly after that with Willem Dafoe called What Body of Evidence, and there were a string of other things, and they all went down. They critically went down, and commercially they went down. And then Basic Instinct 2 disastered, and Andy Vine ended that whole trend, you know. So that was it.
All right, it's my fault. Question there. Microphone for you.
Does it happen any time to you that you have a story with a few good ideas, which you are really attached to, and in order to the whole story to work, you have to throw out a good idea which you kind of liked already? Do you know what I mean? So throwing out from a concept, throwing out an idea which you kind of motivated you, but it doesn't fit to the final thing.
So you kill your darlings.
I think it's probably more likely to work that way, is if you write a draft, the studio doesn't like it, they bring in 3 writers to write their drafts, 3 more, and at the end of it, it has nothing to do with what you've written the first time. But that hasn't happened to me too often. But that's the only way I could foresee it happening, because one of the things that's happened recently is that directors bring in like 8 or 10 writers, and it looks like it's literally like the head chef in the kitchen and all these sous chefs around doing whatever they want to do. One of the reasons I think directors do that is because it's obvious if there are 8 or 10 writers and 1 director that the director is really in charge of the project. So it's never happened to me.
But I think his question is about having more than one good idea within one story.
Right.
You have to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
So one of your ideas in order to make the story work. I think that happens a lot of the time.
Yeah, I guess it does. I try to weed out that before I started. In order, if there are too many ideas and it's too jammed, then I try to weed it out and pull it down. Also, at times I've been lucky to have 1 good idea, let alone a multiplicity of them. But I can see it happening that way.
Mondd, hogy legelőször a karakterrajzok vannak meg, és volt-e már olyan, hogy alkotói nézeteltérés volt, és megmutatta valakinek?
Kezd újra, mert nem hallottuk az elejét.
Nem hallottam.
Hogy legelőször ugye a karakterek vannak meg, ezt mondta.
Angol, közelebb.
A karakterek vannak meg legelőször 6-8 oldalban, és hogy előfordult-e már, hogy alkotói nézeteltérésre támadt valakinek, és megmutatta ezt a karakterlapot, hogy ennek azért kell így történnie, mert ilyen a karakter, vagy ezt kívül senki se látja ezt a legelőször született 6-8 oldalt a főszereplőkről.
Vagy nem halljuk, vagy nem értem.
Do you ever need to show your character notes to anyone when you have arguments about some plot points? To prove that the character would do this and that.
I have no idea.
Think Joe doesn't show his notes to anyone.
I don't know what he said. You say something, man.
Yeah. Do you ever show your?
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Do you ever show your notes to try prior to the script to anyone or to some potential rewriter?
No, not even my wife. I don't even talk to her sometimes about what I'm writing. You know what I mean? No, the answer is no. Definitely no.
I don't know how well you managed to follow the products of the Hungarian cinema in the past few decades, but if you managed so, you have any movie in your opinion which is well written, very good characters? What you saw?
You followed Hungarian films, and are there any ones that you like other than the ones that we made?
I really haven't. I haven't followed Hungarian films. Part of it is that I have 4 teenage sons. If you have 4 teenage sons, you're occupied being a referee much of the time. And I've been a referee much of the time. I also have 3 other grown children. So my family life and my thing with my children prevents me from seeing a lot of things that I want to see. And I really should, and I'd like to, but I just haven't had time
for it. Were there some specific periods here? Anyway, some specific periods in your life that you think influenced most in writing?
Did you hear that? I'm having trouble hearing.
Let's do it again.
Can you name some, or were there any specific periods in your life that you think influenced mostly your writing habit, or how would you say?
Were there any periods of time in your life that sort of influenced your writing more dramatically than just sitting behind your typewriter?
Well, they say that a divorce is worse than death and taxes, and I certainly agree with that. And I went through one years ago, and it was a very difficult time, and it certainly interfered with my writing for a while. And then, the human things that happen in your family context that are crises or that hurt you certainly affect the work in terms of being able to focus on it to the exclusion of real life human beings and their lives. But I do the best I can, and I wish at times that I could focus more on it, but I have real human personal responsibilities that I also have to focus on.
Okay, I got the microphone already. Thank you. I would like to ask you.
Two questions, right?
No, it's just one question this time.
Point, good deal. All right.
One question. The other
right.
second one might. No, it won't.
Okay.
My question is.
Now
that,
we're getting to know each other. This is fun now.
my second question would have been about John Truby, but I skipped that because you're going to say some nasty things. So the real question I wanted to ask you is adaptations. If you said that you read a lot and you might come across a book which you really like and think about writing a screenplay based on that book, or you see a theater play and that theater play inspires you to make a movie out of that story. How much do you consider changing that story or the characters to create something original, to create a Joe Eszterhas piece, as opposed to just taking what's good in the book and put it down in a screenplay format? Basically, how much you want to put your own stamp to be different from the original material, even though the original material might have been great.
When I said that I read a lot and that I believed in reading a lot, I don't read with the intention of finding something that I could write as a screenplay. I've rarely done adaptations. I try to read fiction and books and novels for enjoyment and as stimulation. I did an adaptation of Ira Levin's the book Sliver, right? And I had a great deal of respect for Levin, and I like the producer involved, Bob Evans, very much. And I found myself staying remarkably close to where the novel was. I messed with the ending, but I sent it to Levin, and I asked what he thought. And Levin liked the ending as a cinematic ending as opposed to a book ending, you know. So I tend to be very respectful. I passed on projects where the studio obviously wanted to trash the book and do something else, but I mainly avoid adaptations because I find it much more fun creatively to work with my own characters and with my own story. You know, that comes, I find that really comes out of your heart and soul when you do that.
Just not to disappoint you, if I could follow up with a question on that.
5 is fine.
So that we have the two, just that so your pattern works. If you do make an adaptation, how much of a concern is that for you, that the audience who have read that book or seen that theater play, they're going to automatically compare the movie version to the book, and if you do not do considerable amount of changes, then there is a chance that you can't produce in such a depth a story that a book could. So how much would you be concerned about that there is a comparison between your screenplay versus to a book?
I've never been in that position with a really huge, big bestseller or with a play. It would concern me, but what would concern me about it is I have really a terrific amount of respect for the original creators. Okay, so let's say John Smith has written this book. It took him 5 years, became a gigantic bestseller, right? And I wouldn't feel very good about making huge changes in this unless he agreed with me. But things get very difficult in that process, you know, because the original writers usually don't want to talk to the screenplay adapters and all of that. And I avoided that situation a lot through the years, simply not to be there. Number 6.
No, my original question would have been, when I'm adapting your book to a screenplay, how much do I need to consider? But that's just a joke. I'm not going to do it.
If he's going to write a script on your book,
Good.
how close does he have to stick to the
No,
truth?
no, it was just a joke. I think the microphone is.
Okay, you have a microphone, go ahead.
Yes. It's turned on, okay. Now we know that you never learned screenwriting from any book or, I'm here. It's okay. The voice from above.
White shirt.
Okay.
Can you name, for our benefit, any movies or especially screenwriters that you personally have learned the most from, or whose work you said to yourself, damn, I would have loved to write that piece?
My movies.
Besides Andy, there are 2 that I can think of. Patty Chayefsky is the only real idol that I've had in screenwriting. He wrote brilliant things, and not only did he write them, but he fought like hell to preserve them. He's the only screenwriter whose photograph ever actually appeared on the poster on one of his movies. At the bottom of the poster, there's this little crazed-looking guy typing, and it says from Patty Chayefsky, and I've always loved that. His tombstone says, "I tried," right? And then that says everything to me. I think Aaron Sorkin today is very talented, and I have great respect for just about everything that he's done.